Welcome to the P.T.S.D podcast with your host, comedian and military veteran, Bernard the Laugh Therapist Hines, where we discuss P.T.S.D, processing traumatic situations differently, and give you tools to help you overcome the stigma of seeking help. If you're ready to be inspired, then welcome to the Stigma-Free Zone. Here's your host, the Laugh Therapist himself, Bernard Hines.
What up, everybody? What up, everybody? How you doing? Hey, it's your boy, Bernard Hines, a.k.a. the Laugh Therapist, and welcome to the P.T.S.D, Processing Traumatic Situations Differently podcast. Here, we try to inform, enlighten, and become advocates for one another as we learn more productive ways to process our trauma. Always remember, as a therapist, I am not licensed, I'm just medicated. Welcome to the Stigma-Free Zone. How y'all doing this evening, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are listening to this podcast? I am so happy to be here, y'all. Listen, and as I always say, I'm not a therapist. I do not take the place of a therapist. Please continue to seek your therapist. And if you are feeling emotionally overwhelmed by today's content, please step away and regroup. We don't want to trigger anybody. Listen, y'all, I have an awesome guest on today. I had been going through Instagram, looking at Instagram, and I ran across this page, and I'm like, whoa. Then I ran across the page, veteran? Then I ran across the page showing you how to use creative therapy to restore your mental health. I'm like, I got to get this young lady on the show. Listen, y'all, welcome to the stage right now. Put your hands together for Miss Toya Cheri. I sure hope I said your name right.
You
I
did.
sure.
Thank you. I had people saying Sherry and Mama.
Yeah.
Sherry.
Yeah, I got a public school education, so that messed me up right there. How are you doing on today?
I am finer than frog hairs.
Come on now. Finer than frog hairs. That is awesome right there. That is awesome, y'all. This young lady is on the podcast. I'm kind of glad that she's here because I think y'all got Mardi Gras down going on in Louisiana, ain't it?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So
yeah, they're knee deep in all of that stuff, and I let them have it.
You let them have it. So tell us just a little bit about yourself before we jump into this awesome interview.
Well, I am a mom. I am a believer, mother in a blended family. So we have 5 girls.
Okay.
So my husband has 2, I have 2, and then we adopted his niece when his sister passed away. So he is literally the only male in the house down to the dogs. So we have 2 female dogs as well. So yeah, there's a lot of estrogen going on around here,
okay.
But he makes it work though. He's awesome.
That's good.
A veteran, so I did 22 years in the Air Force, retired E9, and I loved every moment of it, except for obviously the stresses that come along with it, right?
Of course.
I tell you, so I'm originally from Queens, New York. I grew up in the projects, and growing up where I did and how I did. So mom, she was on drugs for some years. Dad was kind of in and out. It was really tough for me because I didn't have the structure that I needed when I needed it. And so I was thugging and bugging out there, and I was doing, things that I had no business doing. But then when I got to high school, actually, let me backtrack. I'm just diving in. So is that okay? Do you
Go dive in? Go dive in. Hey, go look. This is your interview. I'm just driving the car.
Gotcha. Okay. So when I got to high school, I was backtrack. So I got to high school. I got kicked out of my first high school for fighting. And then when I went to my second high school, my guidance counselor, he was just like, listen, we're not going to allow for you to do the same thing you did at your last high school.
Okay.
So you get it together, or, we'll kick you out and go to like a 700 school. So in New York, so like I said, I'm from New York.
Mm-hmm. I can tell by the accent. When you say New York, it just came out. When I said you was from Louisiana, I mean, you was in Louisiana. Let folks know, listen, I'm from New York.
Yes. I'm here by way of the Air Force. That's
okay.
All. So, but yeah, so he said that they were going to send me to a different school, which those type of schools essentially were for kids who were not as smart as other kids, right? And so
Okay.
I knew that that wasn't my situation. I didn't have discipline.
Mm.
So I did ninth grade over again. And so when I was in that school, one day we were cutting class and I was in the auditorium with my friends. We're cutting class in the auditorium in school. And I'm looking to my left and my right, and I'm just like, man, what are we doing?
Okay.
So I had like, this epiphany, and I said, man, I can't do this. I don't want to be a product of my environment. So I got to change, my perspective. And so I started going to all my classes, but then I had to go to like preschool, so which is like school before school starts. So that was 6:30 a.m. And then I went to regular school, and then I went to night school, and then I had to get a job because I had to take care of my little brother. I was 11 when my mother had my youngest brother.
Okay.
So when I got to high school, she was still trying to get her life together and everything. So I had to do what I had to do.
Correct.
So get to 12th grade, and one of my friends had mentioned that she wanted to go into the Guard. And so I was like, man, the military is not a bad idea. And I said, if I go to college, I know that I'm not going to do what I need to do. Like, I'm going to be partying, doing all of the things that I have no business doing. And so if I really want to get my life together, like, I need to go to the military.
Okay.
So 4 of us, we went, and we went to a Marine recruiter, and we had took the practice ASVAB with him, and I was the only one that passed.
Okay.
And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to continue to pursue this to see how this goes. And then I went and I took the actual ASVAB and, passed that. And so he was locked into me, and I was gung-ho about going to the Marines. I was like, yeah, this is it.
You could throw them hands, so you was ready.
I said, if no other branch can get me together, it's the Marines. Like, correct. I'm going there.
Okay.
So by this time, my mother had gotten clean, and she said to me, she said, I know somebody that went into the Air Force and she loved it. She said, so why don't you just check with the recruiter there to see, what they offer.
Wow.
And that way you don't just sign up for the first thing. And I said, okay. So I went to the recruiting office in Harlem, and the recruiter, her name was Sergeant Slaughter. I will never forget her.
Okay.
And she said, she showed me the video of Warrior Week. So basic training and then Warrior Week. So Warrior Week is that week where they take you out in the field, they do the obstacle courses, they show you the videos of people swinging with the rope over the water and all of that stuff. And I'm like, man, that looks so awesome. I was like, I want to do that. So, so I asked her, I said, well, how long is the basic training? She said 6 weeks. I said, the Marines is 13 weeks. So I was like, 6, 13, I'm joining the Air Force, going.
Oh, my goodness.
She kept trying to sell me. I said, ma'am, you don't understand. I'm ready to go. Like, right now, I need to leave where I am because I need a change. Correct. And so she said, well, we got to put you in a delayed entry program. So I graduated high school, and I stayed home for the summer. And then in September, I joined the Air Force. And I'm going to tell you, it was the best decision I could ever have made in my life.
I would tell you about it.
Man, so the first 4 years were kind of tough, though, because I walked in there with a chip on my shoulder.
Okay.
And nobody wanted to take me under their wing to teach me anything. So I actually learned through observation of my friends. So if they had, supervisors that would mentor them or, help them with whatever, I would always ask them, so, what did you learn today? Mm-hmm. Or I would just like sit back and just watch how people operated.
So what was your main job when you first?
So I was aviation resource manager.
Okay.
Essentially what I did was just ensure that the aircrew members, anybody who, was flying, whether it be officers or enlisted, they met all of their qualifications before they flew. And then I also worked with the airspaces, so coordinated airspaces for any of the aircraft. I scheduled visitor flights, so distinguished visitor flights. If we had, like, let's say, Secretary of State or somebody come who was a high priority individual that come through, we would have to schedule their flights for them just as well.
Mm-hmm. So that's amazing that you said all that you went through coming to the Air Force, that once you got in there, now you scheduling flights for these high top people when you said you was getting kicked out of school.
Right.
That is
when I tell you, God was moving from the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. So Then, so the first 4 years, like I said, it was just kind of rough for me. And then I said, man, when I become a supervisor, like I want to make sure that I'm being intentional with my airmen because I never want them to feel how I felt.
Okay.
So when I got my first airman, like I went all in and I thought that I was doing the best that I could with her. And but I still had that roughness about me
Okay.
that I didn't realize.
Mm.
And I remember she had gotten a DUI. She was underage and she got a DUI. And so I had to go pick her up from the police station. And so I'm in the car and I'm just yelling at her going in. And I was like, why didn't you call me? You know I'm here for you. Like, how do you tell somebody you're here for them and you're yelling at them, right? You know I'm here for you. I got the best intentions for you. And she looked at me and she said, you're not approachable. When I tell you that was a dagger in my heart because I know my heart for people, and I was just like, man,
Wow.
how am I not approachable? But I didn't know I was showing up like, yo, you better do this and do that. Like I didn't know I was showing up that way because
that was your
that's how I
environment.
grew up.
That's right. That was right. That was your environment.
You know, and so yeah, it took for my supervisor so I was stationed in Charleston, South Carolina. And that was my first duty station. I went to Germany after that, and then I went to Minot, North Dakota. So when I got to Minot, North Dakota, yeah, when I got there, I had a supervisor. Her name was Lisa Benton. I will never forget her. To this day, we still are connected. But she took me under her wing, and she said, because she started asking me like all of these different things, and because I was a staff sergeant at that time, you know, she was just like, she expected me to know things that I didn't know because nobody had taught me, you know? And so she was just like, you don't know these things? And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so she was like, all right, I got you, come on. And she sat me down and she showed me everything. She would stay after work with me. Like she really poured into me. And that's when I really understood the value of a mentor.
Okay.
And that's when I knew like, that's what I want to be for somebody else. So yeah. After that, so fast forwarding, it was her, and then I went through my career and, you know, had some great opportunities. And then when I became an E7, I had another mentor. His name was Chris McKinney. He poured into me. And initially when he showed up, he looked at me and he was just like, you got to change all of that. And I was like, all of what? What are you talking about? He said, your facial expressions. He said, you're never going to be the person you want to be because of how you're showing up externally. And I said, what? And he said, yeah. He was like, he said, you need to walk around with your facial expressions. Like when you look at people, you need to be just smile and go, I said, who gonna walk around like that? Like that, not me. You know, and he was like, you know what? You will never be effective as a leader if you don't do that. And so he said, because your resting face is one of those faces where people will look at you and be like, I'm not talking to her.
I've seen
and
that.
it's funny because I've heard that all my life. Like I remember coming home from school often and the guys would be in front of my building and they'd be like, Toya, why are you looking so mean? I'm like, I'm not. But I was, but I didn't know it, you know? So he taught me a whole lot about everything, more so leadership though. And so I started to grow into being an effective leader because of his mentorship. And man, I did so much. Like I had such a blessed and amazing career in the Air Force. And to make it to E9, you know, the top 1%, you know, and then to be a Black female at that. So we are the 1% of the 1%, you know, and so to make it that far, man, I couldn't have asked God for a better career opportunity journey. Like, yeah. So I'm blessed.
So did you do any deployments?
Oh, so people wouldn't really consider my deployments.
If you're away from your family, you somewhere, you deploy it.
Right. So I did. I went to Kuwait. I was there for a little over 6 months.
Okay.
And then I went to Guam. So I was there for about 6 months as well.
Okay.
And then I went out to England for about 5 months. So again, most people were looking at me like, Kuwait, maybe. But listen,
I have always said I went to Iraq twice. And I know some people probably say, well, I do Iraq 6 or 7. Or it doesn't matter. The experience that I got when I was there, you can find trauma anywhere.
Yeah. So
You don't
true.
have to be in the war
So
zone.
true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd never minimize anybody for what they did in their military service, because you don't know what that person was going through at that time doing that deployment or being away from their family. So that is
Indeed. I
that
appreciate
is
that,
good.
honesty.
That is good. So did you so what got you into this awesome lifestyle that you are doing
Mm.
called DIY? I mean, when I saw your page, I'm like, she is doing some stuff. She is using some tools. So what got you into that to help with your mental?
Whew. Okay, here goes.
Here it goes. Drum roll, everybody. Here it goes.
So, um, the last year of my career, I'd say it started happening maybe 2 years before I was medically retired. So
Okay.
back in 2020, maybe no, actually it was 2019. Because of the position that I was in, so I was triple hatted. So my unit was roughly about 250 people. I was the senior enlisted person in that squadron. So you have my commander and then you have me. And we're in lockstep. We're leading the squadron. We're doing all of the things that, need to happen there. And so I loved that job.
Okay.
However, I was also the senior enlisted person for the people in my career field across the base. So
Wow.
now I have, what do we have? 7 or 8 squadrons. And then let's say we had 5 or 6 people in each squadron.
Okay.
Then I was also the senior enlisted person in my squadron, but within my flight. So my career field, I had a unit or I had a flight that was in my career field. So I was over them too, because we didn't have the manning to support to have another senior person in that position.
Do more with
So
less.
yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Mhm.
So now I'm wearing 3 different hats and 3 different levels, right? And so I was able to manage it initially, and I had voiced upward, we need some support here.
Got it.
But again, many issues were what they were, and we just had to deal with what we had. And so my stress level started to increase
Okay.
at that time. And so it got to a point actually one time when I was at work and I had to use the restroom, but I felt lightheaded. And I was like, man, let me just, go to the bathroom and just kind of get myself together. So as I'm walking to the bathroom, my chest starts pounding. I start getting short of breath and I almost passed out. So I'm walking out of in my office, it's my commander, it's another office, and then there's a secretary that's sitting right there. So I had to walk past the secretary to go out into the main hallway.
Okay.
And as I'm walking out, I stopped and I put my hand down on her desk and I looked at her and I said, Ms. Deborah, I can't breathe. And
Wow.
like I almost fell back and she yelled at me and she was like, sit down. So I sat down. She calls EMS and she has them come. And then I faded, but then I came back and then I was like, I have to use the bathroom. I'm like, that's all I kept saying is I have to use the bathroom. She's like, no, you got to sit there. So she calls my commander. He comes. And long story short, I end up fading outside. And then they had to lay me down on the ground. And all the airmen are running around me. And I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with her? Wow. And I almost passed out. But I just started crying. And I was like, what about my kids? This job is stressing me out so much that what if whatever's happening to me right now, what if I don't make it,
Okay.
So they bring me to the ER, find out I have a panic attack, anxiety attack. And, but now I have heart palpitations and essentially, I have them for the rest of my life and now I got to take medication for it.
Okay.
So that was kind of the aha moment for me. And so I went to go click the button to retire, but I couldn't because I transferred my education benefits to my kids. So I'm like, man, now I'm stuck here for another 2 years. Okay, so let me make the best of it. So the next year happens and more stress happens, still in the same positions, still everything is still happening. we ramp up with a whole lot of other things we have going on. So now my stress level is just increasing. Then I start having family issues, it's increasing even more. And then like I got to a point where like I used to love going to work.
Okay.
But I would get up and I'd look at my husband. I'm just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So they always say, when it's time for you to retire,
Correct. But let me ask you one question.
Mm-hmm.
How did that feel with you being the top enlisted person and you feeling and people looking at you probably like, what's wrong with her? She's the one that's supposed to be, you're not supposed to be weak, as they say, or sick, or anything is wrong with you because you are the E9. How did that make you feel?
You know what? I didn't care. And I say that because I am a person who believes that transparency is important because the people that are looking to you to lead them and guide them and inspire them, they need to understand that with your journey, while they see the glory, they don't know the story. And
Come on now.
If you are hiding real life to them, they're going to think that that's what that really looks like. And then when they get into your position and they start experiencing all of the things you didn't talk about, they're going to be like, oh my goodness, like, I didn't know it was like, is it me? Like, because that didn't happen to her, So I was very transparent with all of my folks because I wanted them to understand that it does not have to look like this.
Wow.
And if you speak up, you get the help you need, ask for assistance, grow the people under you so that way you don't have to take on as much as you are. There's ways to circumvent that, but you have to be willing to do it. Now, sometimes in my case, we didn't have manning, and so while we did try to put our younger folks in certain positions, you still got to come behind them and check to make sure everything is being right? Check but verify.
Correct.
So it was just kind of tough. And then going into COVID, and I mean, it was just so many things, so many factors that were happening at that time.
Wow.
But yeah, for me, I was always transparent.
That's
and I always
good.
encourage every leader to be transparent.
And that's what we got to do. We have to be transparent. We have to let folks know, hey, I'm human, because if we don't, then people will think, well, I'm not going to get help. I never see them go and get help, anything like that. Wow. Listen, y'all, we are talking to Miss Toya Cheri. She is a awesome young lady that I met online. And you said you had some family issues.
Yeah.
You mind explaining that one? And y'all, I'm not putting her on the spot, so don't think I'm putting her on the spot. She told me I can ask these questions.
Yeah. I will say, for the sake of my children, because they were heavily involved in that piece, I want to protect them.
There you go.
So yeah, I'll
good.
let that one be. But so that's one part of the family issue. The other part of the family issue is just kind of going through, I won't say a custody situation at that time. It was modification of a custody situation with my kids and their dad. So that was compounded in that just as well. But that's aside from the other situation.
Correct. Okay.
So, I got multiple things going on here.
It was rough. Been through that. All that.
Yeah. So, fast forward to 2021, and I was just like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So I went to my should I be saying this? Okay.
No, we don't want to get.
I'm transparent. So I tell you everything.
I know we don't want to get your check took though. We don't want to get your check took.
Yeah, because I feel like it'll help somebody else. But I'll say this. Because of my medical situation, I went through a medical evaluation board.
Okay.
And that started in February of 2021. And then in March of 2021, my dad informed me that he had cancer. So by this time, my father and I, we had a great relationship. We talked probably about 3 times a month. And he had found God. Like his life, he changed so much. And I was so proud of him.
Correct. Okay.
So, he called me one day in March and he said, I found out that I have cancer. And I said, okay. I said, well, this is something that, we're going to go through together. So, I got you, even though I'm here in Louisiana and you're in New Jersey, like, I got you. And then my sister, she's 16 years younger than me. She's 26. And so she lived like literally down the street and around the corner from him. So I was like, between, me, Lily, and you, like, we'll be good. And so he told me that they weren't speaking. And I said, okay, well, at the end of the day, I got you.
Correct.
And so our conversations were good, and we were, I was encouraging him every morning, just doing what I felt needed to do. But at the same time, so let me backtrack. He didn't want me to tell anybody.
Oh.
It was, don't tell my siblings, don't tell anybody. It was just between me and you. And I said, okay. And he was.
That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure on you.
Oh yeah. But I don't know. I felt like I could handle it because I was just like, it's fine. So fast forward to September of 2021, and I get ready for work one morning, and I get a phone call from him, and he's just completely irate, and he's yelling and he's screaming and cursing, and he's like, Toya, I can't do this anymore. I feel like, I'm gonna do something that I shouldn't do. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he was like, I can't take this. Like, this thing is messing up my body. Like, I can't use the bathroom because of medicine that I'm taking, and like all of these different things. And I said, okay. I said, well, we need to communicate with your doctors to figure out, what you're taking, so that way, we can either eliminate certain things, because if you're taking a whole bunch of pills, like, something's not right there. And so we talked, and I knew I was late for work, so I didn't care. Like, I sat down with him, I prayed with him, and I said, listen, do you mind if I bring my husband into the fold? Because my husband, he's not a pastor, he's a minister.
Okay.
And so I said, I want him to pray with you. And he said, okay, you can tell him. And so the three of us, we sat, we prayed, and then my father was fine. I hung up and went to work. So I get to work and talking to my airmen, and they're sitting in my office, and then my phone rings, and it's my dad's friend. And I can hear my dad in the background, and he's yelling and screaming again. And he was like, tell her what you told me. So his friend said, I came to see your dad. I haven't seen him in a while. And when he opened the door, I didn't recognize him. And so I was like, in my mind, I'm like, why would you say that to me?
Why?
But so I hear my dad in the background, Toya, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, I'm gonna end my life. I'm gonna take my life. I can't do this. Now, mind you, my dad lives in on the 15th floor in an apartment building in New Jersey that has a balcony. So he keeps telling me that the way he's going to end his life is by jumping off of the balcony of his apartment. And so, I'm like, Dad, like, please don't do that. So I get emotional. I start crying. I have to, let my airman out of my office. And I said, listen, this is not how this is going to go. Like, you are too strong of a man. And my father, he was like a man's man. Like, he was one of Shaq is the only person I could think of. Okay. Like, he walked into a room and just commanded attention, and everybody respected him. And, so it was just like, to see him being that person to who he was at that moment, crying and just saying, he couldn't do this, like that just broke my heart. So that weekend, my husband and I were supposed to go to Vegas to go visit a friend, but I changed my flight ticket and I went out to Jersey. So I told my dad, I said, listen, can you just hang on until I get there? I said, me and my husband will come out there this weekend to come, just spend time with you. And so he told me yes. So I left, came home, started packing my stuff. And then he called me and he's like, hey, I'm fine. I'm sorry I scared you. I had a moment, but I'm fine. You don't have to come out here. I got to work this weekend, and don't worry about it. And I said, I hear you. And he said, you're saying you hear me, but I'm telling you not to come. And I said, I got you. And he was like, stop being so stubborn. I said, I'm your child. Like, so he's like, no, don't come out here. I said, okay. And he said, do you hear me, Toya? Yep, I hear you. So we hang up, and the next morning my husband and I fly out. And because for me, in all of my training, suicide
Mm-hmm.
prevention training in the
Mm-hmm.
military, if somebody is telling you not to come, it's because they're planning, right? So
Correct.
I'm like, okay, we're going. So we get out to New York. I stay at my mom's house, and then my husband and I drive over the next morning. And so I call my dad on the way there, and I'm like, hey, what you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm getting ready to head out to go to work. And I said, okay. And he said, so yeah, you guys are not coming, right? And I was like, it'd be cool to see you. And he was like, no,
Mm-hmm.
but gosh, I'm not gonna come. Okay, cool. So then the security officer in the building, in his apartment building, I walked up to her, explained who I was. She let me in. And so I go to my father's apartment and I called him on the phone again. And I was like, hey, I forgot to ask you a question. And he was like, what? I said, wait, hold on. What time did you say you were leaving? And he's like, I'm already gone. But I can hear him through his apartment door.
Mm.
So I was like, really? You're gone? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, well, do me a favor. Come look through the peephole real quick. And he was like, you better not be here. And so he comes to the peephole. He was like, I told you not to come. I told you not to come. And I said, and I told you, I'm hard-headed. I don't.
Correct.
So,
Right.
but I need to see you. So he was like, no, go away. I said, I'm not going to leave. I will sit here and camp out on your door until you open the door.
Mm-hmm.
So he finally opens the door. He's actually in his hospital shorts, so blue hospital shorts, and he doesn't have a shirt on. So he never intended on going anywhere. So we go inside and his apartment is just in disarray. And, that's when I knew, like, yeah, he's depressed. He's going through it. So we sat down with him and we talked with him and we prayed with him. And, he was just telling me, he said, that I love God. Yeah. And I said, yep. And he said, that I have a relationship that I'm there for him. But he said, I'm going to tell you, the devil's getting to me.
Correct.
And he said, he's telling me that, nobody cares and
Mm-hmm.
I'm by myself in this. And I said, but you're not.
Right.
So anyway, we prayed with him. And we were going to stay there, but he was just like, no, like, I want you to more so find your sister to let her know what's going on, because she had no idea. And because he isolated himself from everybody, I wanted her to know so that way he could have somebody there to help him.
Mm-hmm.
So we left, but he was fine, right? So we went to her apartment. She didn't answer. Long story short, she was there, but she was upstairs doing somebody's hair. She came down. I told her everything that happened. She starts bawling, and she's just like, everybody brings their issues to me. I don't know if I can take this, because him and we don't have a good relationship, because he said something negative to me. So I'm like, listen, okay, I need your help. I'm in Louisiana. I have things going on. I'm gonna be here for him as much as I can. And I will travel as often as I need to, but he needs somebody physically here with him to help him out. So the conversation I got from that was, okay, I'll see what happens. Okay, so I left, and I didn't tell him what she said because I didn't want that to on
Yes,
him.
that's right.
So that same weekend, I got a call saying that my medical evaluation board was approved, that I was going to be medically retired. So get back home. Now they're telling me you got 2 months to retire. Or to out process. So now I'm just going through the motions, trying to get everything done. At the same time, my dad's conversation is getting worse. And I'm like, listen, I need you to open your circle. And he finally did that, told his siblings, and they were trying to be there to support him. In that same conversation, though, he ended up telling one of his friends what he had been telling me. They call the cops. He gets admitted to a mental health facility. This is 2 days before my retirement ceremony. So this is November 3rd, I think. So my retirement ceremony is November 5th. And then he called me on November 4th, and he was irate with me because when the folks at the mental health facility called me, I told them everything he said. And that caused him to be there longer than he would have been had I not told him what I told him.
Correct.
So it was my fault. He let me have every word that was in every other dictionary.
Right.
So after that, he got out, came home, and he was worried about his job. I told him to let them know what happened, what he was dealing with regards to the cancer, so that way,
Mm-hmm.
they could be there to support him as well. And they were, which was great. And so life kind of continued on. He seemingly was in a good headspace when I called him.
Okay.
He was fine. Then November 22nd, oh, I'm sorry, November 21st, I called him, and the conversation was very different, and it was very short. And it was like every time we would hang up, it was, I love you, I'll talk to you later. This time it was bye. And I said, okay, well, maybe he's still mad at me because of what happened. So, I get it. At least he answered the phone.
Mm-hmm.
November 22nd, I get a phone call from my sister's mom, and she's like, Toya, can you find out what happened?
Mm.
And I said, what happened with what? And she said, with your dad. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, my cousin just came over here and told me that there were a lot of police over at your dad's building. And somebody had said that your dad jumped from the 15th floor of his apartment building. And I was like, no, he didn't do that. He didn't do that. I said, okay, let me call the police department and figure out what's going on. So I call them, and they give me the runaround. And then somebody says, well, we'll get the detective to give you a call back. So I said, okay. Detective calls back, and he's like, well, sorry to confirm this, but your dad did commit suicide.
Listen, y'all, if anybody right now is feeling emotionally overwhelmed by today's content, please step away and regroup. We are just being transparent. She is telling her story. She's telling how she processed her trauma, and just please.
Yeah. So that was after that, I kind of blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
And what was challenging, I think I carried the weight of, well, all the training I got in the military,
Yeah.
I couldn't save him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I internalized that, and it was tough. It was very tough. And so 2022, so that happened, but my daughter's birthday was 2 days later. She turned 18 2 days later. So they were at their dad's house. I couldn't tell them what happened. So I would get on the phone with them and just talk in my normal tone, act like everything was fine. And they came home that weekend, and then I had told them what happened. So fast forward in 2022, like I fell into a severe state of depression. There were days I didn't get out of bed. I couldn't talk to people. Like I isolated myself. And I did grief counseling.
Okay.
It helped for the moment,
No.
but it still, it didn't move me to where I needed to be.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that whole year, I don't remember half of the things that happened there until somebody tells me. Then I have to like really try to sit and recall, because I was present, but I wasn't present.
Okay. Yeah.
So September 27th, I was sitting on my couch and I was scrolling through Instagram, and actually backtrack. So September 27th, I was sitting down and I was just like, all right, God, I need you, because I can't move beyond where I am by myself.
Okay.
And I can't do it with the people around me either, because I'm not listening. So I need you. And I went into my closet and I started praying. And I came back and sat down, and then it's so interesting. Anytime I go through anything,
Okay.
I kind of forget certain things, and God always puts in my spirit, go watch The War Room. That movie, for whatever reason,
okay,
it realigns me.
I guess that centers you,
with who I am in Christ. And so I seen that, and then went back to my prayer room and prayed. And I asked God for three things. I asked him for a creative outlet. I asked him for an opportunity to connect with other Christian women who can encourage me through my time. Because I wanted to do community with, other women. And then I asked him for an opportunity to mentor again, because for me, like that's my heart's joy, to be able
Okay.
to help, other people. Granted, I have kids and I try to do that for them, but your kids don't listen to you.
Until
So, so,
trust me, I know.
so yeah, I prayed for those three things. And then September 28th, I'm on my couch and I'm scrolling through Instagram and I came across this thing called the One Room Challenge. And so the One Room Challenge is where you have people from all parts of, whether it be the US, I think it's only just US if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So, and they come together over an 8-week period and they renovate a room in their house. And over that 8-week period, you post your progress and you support each other. And, there's the encouragement, there's the, just everything that I needed. And so I seen it and I was like, man, I don't know if I have the capacity to do this, because I'm ebbing and flowing, through my emotions. And then I said, you know what? But what if this is it? Like, and so before I could talk myself out of it, I just signed up and I was like, there it is. I'm signed up. I'm going to do it.
Right.
And so for me, it's like that fire that I needed. Once I commit to something, I always try to give it my best effort because I'm committing to it, right? So I was like, that's the thing that I needed. So then I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to use my personal page. I want to create, a different page specifically for this. So I need a name. And so I prayed on it and God dropped in my spirit, She Moves with Purpose.
Come on now.
And I said, okay. Oh, okay, we can do this.
She moves with purpose.
Yeah. And then maybe 2 days later, I had a woman from church call me and she said, hey, I'm starting a women's group and I wanted to know if you wanted to be a part of it. And I said, absolutely. Like literally 2 days later. And I was like, okay, guys, I see you working. So I'm getting all excited now because I'm just like, man, he hurt me. And then through her group, I let her know, what my prayers were.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, I know a woman here in the local area who just started an organization that helps young women who have aged out of the foster care system. And they help them with life skills and they just need, mentors, just help them with, the things that they didn't grow up with.
Correct.
And so she said, I want to connect you with her. I said, absolutely. So she connects me with her and then they find me a young lady to help mentor. And I was just like,
that's awesome.
Thank you, Jesus. So, I'm excited. I'm just doing life, just trying to go through all of these things. And for the room itself, I had used a power drill before, right? But, with all of these different things I wanted to do, like I sat down, I saw the wallpaper and I was like, we're going to use that. I'm going to build everything else around it. And that's how that whole process started. And I took my time because it was emotional for me, but it also made me happy when I was doing it. And I ended up finishing. So the 8 weeks should have been done on like November 14th or something. And I ended up taking an extra week because I just wanted to do it on my own time. And so, but I wanted to finish it. And I actually finished it on the anniversary of my father's death. So, buddy, when I tell you,
wow,
I was so emotional with that. And I just sat and I just looked around and I said, man, anytime I feel like I can't, I will walk in here and believe that I can, because so that's my resilience room. While it's my family's movie room, that's my resilience room. And so anytime I question anything about my ability to do whatever it is, I go up there and I'm just like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it.
Wow.
So, yeah. And after that, I had that same woman that told me to sit down when I was, having my chest palpitations and about to pass out. She saw my work on Instagram and she was just like, so you ready for your first client? Now, let me tell you about Miss Deborah, because she don't trust people. She don't.
Okay.
So, I was so taken aback And I was like, are you serious? And she said, yeah. She said, I see what you're doing.
Yes, you're
And
doing it.
I know why you're doing what you're doing, but
Okay.
I see that there's a talent there. So she said, I want you to just come here and look at, my house. I need some storage. I got a whole lot of stuff. So what she does, she buys items for the new airmen that are coming in that are trying to get
Okay.
set up with their homes and stuff. And so she, asked me to come look. So right when she asked me, I had just tore off my mantle because we got our floors done, and I had to take the hearth out. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna just change the mantle out as well. So
Saw
like,
that.
I got this hole in there, and I'm just like, but I'll come look at your stuff. So when I went down there and I saw her house and what she wanted, I prioritized hers over what I was doing. So I was like, I can get that done later on. So yeah, I went in there and we were talking about cabinets under her window. And then I just started like talking about this area, like, how are you going to maximize space here? What are you going to do here? And she said, look, just do my whole dining room. And I was like, you want me to do your whole dining room? And so, she was just like, yeah, like, I trust you. Just do what you do.
So you had to go back in the room and be like, I can do it. I can do it.
Yeah, right. So I did. I ain't even gonna lie, I did. And then I came down here and I got on Pinterest and just started finding different things. I brought it to her, and yep, she was like this. And I said, I can build you a banquette too, like, seating with storage and drawers and all of that. Now, mind you, I never did that before.
That's the one I saw.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I was like, yep, I can do that. And then when I started doing it, I was like, can you do that? And then I went upstairs and I was like, yep, I can do it. So yeah, and when I got done with that, I was so humbled by her response, though. Because she's not a person who's emotional.
Okay.
And she will tell it like it is. And so for her to come home and just stop and walk over to the table and rub the table and smile and then walk over to everything that I made and just look at it. And she looked up at me and she was like, thank you.
Wow.
That meant so much to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, man, I enjoy doing, like, this is my happy place. Mm-hmm. Like, I just remember being in there and just dancing and having a good old time because it was something that I enjoyed doing.
Correct.
And I had a lot of conversations with myself too through all of that, because I had to talk myself through the times when I didn't want to get up that morning and come in. But, I'm just like, hey, one, you committed to this, so you're going to do it. Mm-hmm. And then two, like, you feel different when you're doing it. So, yep, I got done with that. And then she said, well, my kitchen is right next to my dining room and I can't have that looking like it is. So go ahead and do that too. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I did that. And she afterwards, my husband, he's an interviewer just as well. So he's like, well, how do you like this? Like, how do we do? And she said, you guys changed my life so much. She said, because what I had in here, she had a lot of stuff in there. It was, to walk through it was kind of challenging, So the fact that she said, you helped me just as much as I helped you, because she knew my process. She gave me the time to do whatever. So she said, I'm not giving you no timeline.
Okay.
I want you to just come in here, and however long it takes you, if you got to pause, like, I understand all of that. So I appreciated her grace in that, because I was still, working through a lot. But yeah, that just sparked something in me. And I'm just like, this is what I want to do all the time. But I don't necessarily want to do it for myself. Now, granted, I got to fix my fireplace because I tore it off. And my husband's like, Toya, come on now.
Right.
But my heart's desire is to be able to do this for veterans, but then even older folks too. Because the younger folks, I mean, they can go and, get whoever to do it. But the older folks, they, like, I'm just one of those people where I know people take advantage of older people. Mm-hmm. And so I know that when I go in there, I'm going to give it my 110%, and I'm going to be completely transparent and honest with you, because that's what you deserve. So my
Well, I'm
heart's
old.
desire.
Well, I'm old and a veteran. So you can come. My
We can
wife and
talk.
my wife and already started following you. She looking at some stuff. She was like, "Hey, we like slow it down, slow it down."
Yeah, but yeah, we can talk. But yeah, so hopefully, because I've gotten, so after posting that one video about my about me reel, my my intro, I have gotten so many veterans to reach out to me.
Wow.
An overwhelming response. And man, when I tell you, I got so emotional behind that because so many of us can relate to
Yeah.
that trauma,
Yeah.
Um, and then people just like, hey, where are you located? Do you travel? Can you? And I'm like, God, is this what you want me to do next?
Mm,
Because we're about to be empty nesters.
we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just like, is this what 2025 looks like for us? So we'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll
Mm,
see what happens. But
wow.
it was such a blessing. And when I tell you, this 2023 in and of itself blessed me so much. So through my work in her house and in my house, a brand saw me. They wanted to work with me. I did a reel for them. And another company, Black Girl Digital, they are a new company. They focus on marketing and just kind of bringing awareness to the e-commerce about how Black content creators can add value to brands.
Okay.
So they created an award show, and this 2023 they had their second annual awards, and so they put out a call for nominations in all various categories: fashion, beauty, home design, all of that stuff. And somebody saw my reel with that brand. They nominated me. Had no idea none of this was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get an email that says, "Congratulations, you've been nominated for a Black Girl Digital Award." And I'm like, "What is this?" So I go do my research, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So now there's a category. There's 5 of us in the category. I'm At that time I was the smallest account, so I had, and 20,000 is not small by any means, but
Right.
I'm dealing with 150,000
Right.
to 350,000. I'm just like, well, they have. If this is going to be a voting system, they have more followers. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just excited to be in the conversation. I'm excited about the fact that I could possibly be in a room to gain more knowledge. So that way I can help other people with whatever I learn.
Correct.
So not even considering the whole voting factor part of it, but then I'll go out and I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm nominated, vote for me," all that stuff. And then I get a email saying that I'm a finalist. And I was like, "What? No." I was like, "All right, guys, I see you." I see you. So then fly out to Atlanta for the award show. And again, I'm just like, man,
Blown away.
I get to be here. Like, this
Right.
is so awesome. And then they do the categories, and then they announce the winner and everything. And so I'm sitting there, and my husband's like, "Toya, go." They called your name. I was like, "What?" And so my hands are all sweating. So I'm wiping my hands like, "Oh my gosh." And I get up there and I'm just taken aback. And I'm just like,
Wow.
I had to pause for a moment, like, man, come on, God. Like, when
You
I
are
tell you,
really processing your trauma differently in a creative, positive, outstanding, productive way. I am proud of you. I am proud that I got to meet you and find you on Instagram, because I asked God, just give me people that are doing extraordinary things and don't have to be, big time, but God gonna make you big time because you're already big time. You are doing. I like your DIYher. Your name. It's my therapy, restoring my mental health by creating feel-good, functional spaces and empowering you to do it too. Toya, you are doing great things, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I am truly proud of you. How can people find you on social media?
So you can find me on Instagram.
Oh, you see how the voice changed? Did you hear the voice change?
No, I'm joking. I'm on Instagram at She Moves with Purpose, and also Facebook as well. I'm trying to plus up my TikTok account, but to be able to manage like all these different platforms, like I'm still learning all of this stuff. So
Correct.
yeah, it's a lot. So Instagram and Facebook.
She moves with a purpose. I would like for you to leave just a little short message for anybody who feel like their trauma, they can't get past it, they can't function XYZ. What would you tell that person?
It's important for you, and everybody is not a believer. So whatever that thing is that gives you an anchor that you can lean on, I say lean on that. But I'm sorry, I gotta speak about God. So
Right.
yeah.
I asked you. That's right.
Yeah. So be firm in your faith with God. Like when I tell you, when you lay it all down and you put it in God's hands, He will show up for you. He will show up for you in the most amazing way. If you trust, believe, like you can have blind faith. You can do that, and it will pay in dividends for you. Also, when you consider your perspective, like perspective is everything. Whatever, one of my favorite quotes is, I am are two of the most powerful words in the dictionary because what comes after them will determine who you are.
I like that.
And when I wake up in the morning, I'm just like, I am a nurturer. I am a mother. I am a strong woman. Like I all of these different affirmations that you say to yourself, so that way you can empower yourself, right? I have 3 quotes.
Okay.
So first one, fear. Fear can mean one of 2 things: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. So rise to the occasion every time. Rise to your potential. Rise to the challenge that the challenges that you're faced with, so that way you can overcome them and be the person God has called you to be. Anytime you're feeling like I can't, just look at yourself in the mirror and be like, rise up. It's time to rise up. Win, right? I'm determined to win, but not win in the social aspect on how society says win is, or what win looks like. For me, win is work hard, invest in yourself, and never give up. You do those things, and you're gonna win at anything, at any point in life. And then my last one is, nothing changes if nothing changes. If you don't do the work, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't try to move yourself beyond that situation, put people in your lives that are going to help you show up to be better for you and the people that are around you, nothing will ever change if you don't set yourself up for the change. So, man, I hope that I was able to inspire at least just one person. Like if I've done that today, I've done my job, and God,
He's pleased.
my prayer was that people will see Him through me. So yeah, if I've done that, then I've done my job. But blessings to everybody who has watched this, and I wish you all much success.
Your transparency is amazing. Your transparency is amazing. Listen, y'all, please go follow her at She Moves with a Purpose. My new friend, Toya. Thank you very much. God bless you and your family. And right now, you are released from the stigma-free zone. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.